The alarms were silent, the office eerily still, yet chaos had already erupted across Novatech Industries. Phones were dead, screens black, and the company that prided itself on precision and innovation was paralyzed. Executives ran from room to room, shouting orders that went unheard, their panic echoing off the glass walls. In the midst of this storm, 12-year-old Ava Carter, daughter of the janitor, stood quietly in the shadows, her eyes scanning the frozen systems with sharp focus. She had seen patterns others missed, traced anomalies that the best specialists had overlooked, and in that moment, she realized the truth. This was no accident. Someone inside had sabotaged everything, and though no one had taken her seriously, she now held the key to saving thousands of jobs, exposing a traitor and turning the world of the powerful upside down. What happened next would shock the entire company and prove that brilliance doesn't care about age, wealth, or race. The first rays of dawn barely pierced through the towering glass of New York City, but Henry Carter was already pushing the janitor cart down the empty corridors of Novatech Industries. At 49, he had spent 15 years in this building, silently keeping the empire running while no one noticed him. Every step he took echoed against the polished floors, a rhythm of dedication and quiet sacrifice. His mind was not on the dust or the discarded paper, but on his daughter, Ava, who sprinted down the hallway behind him, eyes bright and full of determination. "Dad, did you forget my lunch again?" she called, her voice a mixture of amusement and mild scolding. Henry chuckled under his breath, the kind of tired chuckle that carried both pride and the weight of his own unfulfilled dreams. Ava Carter, 12 years old, was no ordinary child. Teachers whispered about her uncanny ability with numbers and logic, how she solved problems that left even older students baffled. She spent hours in the school library, practicing coding, experimenting with circuits, imagining a world where she could design software that changed lives. Yet she knew her reality was different. Her family didn't have wealth, connections, or influence. They had resilience, intelligence, and a relentless drive to rise above the limits society imposed on people like them. "One day I'll work here, but not just sweeping floors," Ava whispered to herself, her gaze lingering on the engineers passing by with their laptops and lanyards. "I'll build things they can't even imagine." Henry felt a pang in his chest every time he heard her speak like that. He knew the world could be cruel, especially for people like them. As a Black immigrant, he had experienced dismissal, cold stares, and assumptions that his worth was defined by his job title or the lack thereof. Yet he never let Ava's spirit waver. "You're the smartest, bravest girl I know," he often said as they sorted cleaning supplies together in the early mornings. "Don't ever let anyone make you feel invisible." Henry had left everything in the South a decade and a half ago to give his family a better life, believing that work ethic and integrity could carve out a future where Ava's mind could thrive, not just survive. The building was still dark, the only light coming from emergency signs and the occasional flicker of a security monitor. Ava's curiosity and sharp eyes took in everything. She noted the way certain executives walked past her and her father, pretending they didn't exist. The subtle sneers of coworkers who thought themselves untouchable. "Why do people look at us like that, Dad?" she asked quietly as they passed a cluster of well-dressed engineers. Henry stopped, resting his hands on the cart. "Some people believe money or status defines them. They think our worth is measured by titles or salaries," he said, his voice calm but firm. "But you, Ava, are proof that true value comes from the mind and the heart, not from what someone has in their wallet." Her father's words had settled deep inside her, mixing with a quiet fire that had been building since childhood. She saw the world through a lens of possibility, not limitation, and yet she also felt the sting of being underestimated. Fellow students praised her intellect, yet the larger society often dismissed people who looked like her or came from neighborhoods like hers. Ava noticed every slight, every whisper, and it hardened her resolve to prove that brilliance and courage were not privileges reserved for the privileged. At 5:30 a.m., as Henry polished the floors near the elevators, he glanced at Ava watching the engineers at work. "One day, you're going to show them all," he whispered to himself, thinking of his daughter's determination. Henry had saved every penny, juggled multiple pounds, and endured exhaustion just to make sure Ava could chase her dreams. "My daughter won't clean floors for anyone unless she wants to," He had promised Grace, his wife, long ago. Ava's mind was already racing, imagining ways she could one day influence the systems, create programs that improved lives, and rise above the casual discrimination she experienced daily. By the time the sun began to inch over the skyline, the building was awake, bustling with energy that contrasted sharply with the quiet persistence of Henry and Ava. No one noticed them moving through the halls, the father and daughter duo often invisible to those who believed success could only be achieved by the already powerful. And yet, beneath the surface, Ava was absorbing everything, learning from the way her father carried himself with dignity, from the small gestures of kindness that went unnoticed, from the discipline and meticulous observation that sharpened her mind like a well-honed tool. She remembered the words Henry repeated every morning. "It's not what people see on the outside, Ava. It's who you are inside that matters. Never forget it." Those lessons shaped her, creating a combination of humility, analytical skill, and quiet courage. She knew the path ahead wouldn't be easy, especially for a young black girl in a high-powered tech world, but she also knew she had the tools to navigate it. Every time she watched engineers work, every spreadsheet, every line of code, she envisioned a day when she could not only participate, but lead, when her mind could be recognized, not ignored. Henry, moving past a glass panel reflecting the early light, caught a glimpse of Ava standing tall, shoulders squared, eyes scanning the floors for details others overlooked. He felt a mix of pride and anxiety. He knew their lives were about to change in ways they couldn't yet imagine. "Ava, one day they'll see who you really are," he said softly, more to himself than to her. She smiled, determination radiating from her small frame, unaware that the coming days would test every lesson he had taught her, challenge the biases of the powerful, and ultimately place her in a position where intelligence, courage, and integrity would not only save a company, but also redefine the value of people who were too often overlooked. As they turned the corner toward the supply closet, Ava whispered, "Dad, I'll make you proud. I'll make them all see it doesn't matter where we come from." Henry's heart swelled. "You already do, Ava. You already do." Neither of them knew that in just a few hours, the invisible girl who carried so many dreams would face the most unlikely challenge, one that would force a room full of executives to recognize her worth, confront prejudice, and witness the power of intellect, bravery, and integrity firsthand. Do you think Ava's intelligence and courage will be enough to overcome the biases and challenges she is about to face? By mid-morning, Novatech Industries was no longer the bustling hive of innovation it appeared to outsiders. The entire system had frozen, sending panic rippling through every department. Phones were dead, computers unresponsive, and project deadlines hanging by a thread. In the executive suite, William Blake's usually composed face was flushed with panic, his hands trembling as he slammed a stack of reports onto his desk. How is this possible? Every system frozen, the entire operation paralyzed. His voice reverberated against the glass walls, a rare crack in the calm veneer that employees were accustomed to. Around him, assistants scurried, trying to calm clients on the phone, but the truth was undeniable. Novatech was teetering on the brink of disaster. Victor Lang, the company's technology director, wore a mask of concern, his eyes darting to William as if waiting for recognition of his brilliance. In reality, he was the architect of the case. For months, he had nurtured a deep resentment, both of the CEO's authority and of anyone he deemed unworthy, particularly the people who came from backgrounds like Henry and Ava's. He despised the Carters, seeing them as interlopers in a world reserved for the privileged, a threat to his own ambitions. Every virus, every frozen system was carefully planted to create maximum panic, positioning him as the savior ready to step in, while secretly undermining every other attempt at repair. Meanwhile, on the 30th floor, Henry pushed his cart through the dimly lit corridors, Ava trailing close behind. The normally familiar offices now felt like a maze, each darkened screen a reminder of how fragile the empire truly was. Ava's eyes darted from monitor to monitor, absorbing every movement of employees, every sign of confusion and fear. "Dad, this isn't random," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "Systems don't fail like this on their own. Someone did this, intentionally." Henry froze, stunned by her insight. "How do you know that?" he asked, genuinely curious and slightly fearful. Ava's brow furrowed, a spark of determination lighting her eyes. "I've been studying coding and system architecture at school, and I know how the protections are supposed to work. Whoever caused this knew exactly what they were doing." She glanced around the deserted hallways. "If we're going to fix this, we have to act fast." By now, the chaos had reached the lower floors where Brandon Hall, the security officer, was fielding calls from irate executives, and Emily Reed, the secretary, tried to soothe panic-stricken employees. "We've never seen anything like this," Emily muttered, glancing nervously at the rows of dark monitors. Ava's mind worked furiously, connecting dots that others hadn't even considered. She had watched Victor Lang interact with staff over the past weeks. The subtle disdain, the unnecessary corrections, the way he undermined any suggestion from someone he considered beneath him. And now, she knew, he was exploiting that same hubris to bring Novatech to its knees. Victor's eyes flicked toward the Carters as they entered the server corridor, his jaw tightening. The girl, the father, always in the way. "Who let them in here?" he hissed under his breath. "They have no business touching the systems." He clenched his fists, imagining their interference might expose him. Every instinct screamed that Ava was a threat, but to dismiss her outright would be dangerous. She was too observant, too clever. Hours passed as top-tier IT specialists arrived from Elite Tech Solutions and Quantum Fix, along with consultants from Apex Digital. Teams of experienced engineers scoured the network, tried every conceivable solution, yet the virus resisted every attempt at neutralization. Panic escalated. Stock prices flickered, clients called, investors threatened withdrawals. William Blake ran from office to office, barely able to breathe, shouting instructions that only seemed to create more confusion. The higher the stakes, the more unbearable the tension in the air. In the midst of the chaos, Ava and Henry retreated to a quiet corner of the server floor, reviewing the physical layout of the machines, the patterns of failures, and access points. "Dad, I think I can find the main control node," she whispered, almost reverently. "It's like the heart of the system. If we reach it, we might be able to isolate the virus and trace it back to the source." Henry's heart pounded. "Ava, this is dangerous. If someone catches you, Victor..." He won't hesitate. Ava's lips pressed together, the weight of responsibility pressing on her small shoulders. "I have to try. Too many people's livelihoods are at risk if I hunt." With careful precision, Ava memorized every hallway, server cluster, and terminal access point. Using the master key Henry had acquired from his janitorial duties, they slipped into the central server room. The space was massive, glowing with faint blue and green lights from dormant machines, eerie in its quiet. Ava approached the terminal, fingers poised over the keyboard. Her mind raced, recalling every coding exercise, every hackathon challenge, every late night in the library. She scanned logs, dissected the virus's footprint, and within 2 hours she found it. Victor Lang's digital signature embedded in the system, along with a network of emails showing his dealings with competitors, designed to ruin Novatech and frame William Blake. Her heart pounded as she realized the full scope. Victor had created a second-time virus, set to permanently destroy every file in 48 hours. Thousands of employees' personal data, ongoing contracts, and sensitive information were at risk. Ava's mind worked faster than her fear. She crafted a countermeasure, a digital lock that could neutralize both viruses and preserve the evidence against Victor. Her small hands flew across the keyboard, implementing her plan with methodical precision. By late afternoon, the first phase of her counterattack was complete. Systems were restored, the secondary virus neutralized, and evidence secured. But Ava knew the most dangerous part was yet to come. Victor had to be exposed publicly, in front of executives and specialists, to ensure he could not destroy the company further or retaliate against her and Henry. She and her father planned the confrontation carefully, knowing it would be tense, perhaps even violent. The following morning, Ava entered the executive meeting room, standing beside Henry. William Blake and the top specialists were already assembled, tense and wary. She feigned an initial discovery, pretending to react in real time as she restored the systems. Then, as Victor watched, she triggered the display of emails, coding logs, and detailed evidence linking him to the sabotage. Gasps echoed through the room. Victor's face went pale, his arrogance replaced with the panic as everyone realized the truth. Security personnel quickly detained him as William Blake struggled to absorb the revelation. The Carters, once invisible, now commanded the attention of everyone in the room, their courage and intellect undeniable. Ava stood quietly, chest heaving, as William Blake approached her. You saved the company," he said, voice thick with emotion, and exposed a betrayal that could have destroyed us all. Henry's hand rested lightly on her shoulder, pride shining in his eyes. The room erupted into applause. It was more than a victory for the company. It was a triumph of intellect, courage, and integrity over prejudice, underestimation, and malice. The morning sun poured through the expansive glass walls of Novatech Industries, reflecting off the polished floors and catching the tension still lingering in the air. Ava Carter stood quietly beside her father, Henry, as William Blake cleared his throat to address the room. For the first time in months, the CEO's voice was steady, but there was a profound humility underneath it. The company had narrowly avoided catastrophe, and everyone in the room knew it. What made this moment extraordinary was not the systems being restored or the data saved. It was the young girl and her father who had quietly orchestrated the rescue, despite being invisible to most. Ava felt a mixture of exhaustion and pride. Her small hands still tingled from hours at the terminal, her mind buzzing with the intricacies of the code she had traced and neutralized. Henry's presence at her side was grounding, his warm hand on her shoulder reminding her that courage did not mean acting alone. Together, they had faced not only a technical crisis, but the deeply ingrained prejudice of Victor Lang, who had thought his hatred and manipulation would go unnoticed. "Ladies and gentlemen," William began, "yesterday we witnessed something remarkable. This company was under threat, not from an external force, but from within. Someone sought to bring Novatech to ruin, and for a time it seemed unstoppable. But thanks to the courage and intelligence of one young individual and the unwavering support of her father, we have survived, and we have learned a lesson that cannot be forgotten." He gestured toward Ava and Henry. "Ava Carter and Henry Carter, please come forward." As they stepped into the center of the room, murmurs spread among the employees. Many remembered how often they had overlooked the Carters, walking past them in the halls as if they didn't exist. Some felt a pang of guilt for their own assumptions. Ava's eyes met the gaze of Victor Lang, who was now surrounded by security, his face contorted with disbelief and fury. The audacity of a 12-year-old girl, someone he had considered insignificant, had undone every plan he had meticulously orchestrated. William Blake continued, "Ava has not only restored our systems, but has exposed the truth, preventing what could have been irreversible damage to our company and to the livelihoods of thousands of employees. And Henry Carter, through years of dedication, integrity, and love, has guided and supported his daughter to reach this moment. Their contribution cannot be measured merely in systems repaired or files recovered. It is a lesson in character, in resilience, and in the value of every individual, regardless of position, background, or skin color." Tears welled in Ava's eyes as she looked around the room. Faces of colleagues, executives, and even previously dismissive staff now held awe and respect. For the first time, she felt the world noticing not just her talent, but her humanity. She knew the challenges ahead would not vanish overnight. The biases, the microaggressions, the assumptions about her race and background. But this moment was proof that skill, courage, and integrity could break through even the most entrenched prejudice. William Blake stepped forward, placing a hand on Ava's shoulder. "Effective immediately," he announced, "Henry Carter will be promoted to facilities supervisor with a compensation that reflects his dedication and the respect he has earned. Ava Carter will serve as special IT consultant in addition to her school commitments. Furthermore, Novatech will establish the Ava Carter Scholarship Fund, ensuring that children of all employees who demonstrate excellence and innovation, regardless of background, have access to opportunities for education and growth." The applause that followed was thunderous, heartfelt, and sustained. People stood, some wiping tears from their eyes, moved by the story of courage and integrity overcoming bias and malice. Victor Lang, now restrained by security, shouted protests and threats, but his voice fell flat. The evidence Ava had meticulously collected, emails, virus logs, and incriminating communications, stood irrefutable on every screen in the room. The arrogance he had relied upon for months had become his undoing. The room, once filled with fear and uncertainty, now vibrated with the collective realization that assumptions about worth based on race, position, or appearance could be shattered by talent, determination, and moral courage. After the meeting, Ava and Henry were invited into William Blake's office. The CEO, a man who had long been defined by profits and power, now spoke with a sincerity that had surprised even Henry. "I have been blind to the contributions of people like you, Henry, and to the potential of individuals like Ava," he admitted. "I can promise you this: the Carters will never be invisible at Novatech again. Your actions have changed the culture of this company, and I am personally committed to ensuring that talent and character are recognized regardless of background." Henry squeezed Ava's hand, pride and relief washing over him. "Dad, we did it," Ava whispered softly. He smiled, his eyes glistening. "No, Ava, you did it. I just taught you how to see the world and hold your head high. You made everyone else finally see you too." That evening, as they returned home, the streets of New York seemed warmer, brighter, more alive. Neighbors and friends had gathered for a small celebration, cheering as Ava and Henry walked through their building. The news of the young girl who saved Novatech had already begun to spread, inspiring stories across social media, highlighting the power of courage and integrity to overcome prejudice and fear. Ava looked at her father, the weight of the day settling in. "Dad, did we really change anything?" she asked. He knelt, looking into her eyes. "We showed the world that brilliance and goodness can't be ignored, Ava. That sometimes the people everyone overlooks are the ones who can make the biggest difference." As Ava prepared for bed, she reflected on everything she had learned, that intelligence alone was not enough without courage, that kindness could challenge cruelty, and that every person had the power to rewrite assumptions about who they were and what they could achieve. She had faced fear, bias, and near impossible odds, and had emerged not just victorious, but stronger, more confident, and unafraid to claim her place in the world. The Carters had become symbols, not just of survival, but of justice, morality, and the enduring human spirit. As she drifted to sleep, Ava imagined other children like her, unseen and underestimated, quietly building knowledge, patience, and determination. "If I can do this," she thought, "so can they." Outside, the city lights twinkled like possibilities, a reminder that hope and courage could illuminate even the darkest challenges. How did this story make you feel about underestimating people based on their age, job, or background? If you enjoyed Ava's bravery, type 707 in the comments below. Where are you watching from? Let us know your country in the comments. Share this video with friends and family to spread the message that true talent and courage can come from anyone, anywhere.